Good afternoon, folks. Chief Meteorologist Nick Lilliga here, taking a look at your tropical update for September 25th of 2019. I'm brought to you by the folks over there at Pine Belt Gutters and Remodeling. And hey, they do roofing too, which during a hurricane season, unfortunately, has an opportunity to come in handy, given some of the systems that come rolling through. You may end up needing some gutters, some remodeling, and unfortunately some roofing. The good news is for us here in South Mississippi, and truly, and I know a lot of you folks watch this across the Gulf Coast, nothing really headed our direction right now. I know there's been a lot of interest in Karen, but as you'll see here in a hot second, that's maybe not necessarily warranted. Out into the Gulf of Mexico now, we've got some cloud cover, some showers, some thunderstorms kind of loosely associated with some clusters of storms that are down near the Yucatan. Out into the open Atlantic, we do have Karen out here, which is getting eaten up by a little mid-level area, upper-level area of low pressure, and then what's left over of Jerry. We've got another area of low pressure out here in the mid-levels, and then we've got Lorenzo down here, which is really looking good this afternoon. Out into the coast of Africa we go. Any waves back in behind this? Yeah, maybe one or two back here, but I got to tell you, for the most part, I think things are going to start to calm down in terms of waves coming off of Africa over the next 5 to 10 days. It'll probably pick back up again before the season's over, but things will probably slow down. I mean, this has been wave after wave after wave after wave out here for about the last 2 weeks, and I think that's going to kind of ease back a little bit. All right, what's left over of Jerry? Not much. A post-tropical Jerry now. This thing's going to kind of go off to the east-northeast, then kind of peel back off to the east-southeast, wind at 40 miles an hour, gusting to 50. It is now post-tropical. You can tell that because there's the center, and there's all the thunderstorm activity well out ahead of it and away from the center. Then we've got, oh, Karen. This thing, let me tell you, folks, is going to lift off to kind of the north-northeast, go into pause mode, curlicue around, and then come back to the west as we head through next week. So here we are on today's Wednesday. I'll remember the day, don't worry, eventually. Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Monday. So this thing is going to continue to move off to the kind of north-northeast through today, tomorrow, Friday. By Friday and into Saturday, it's going to pull pause mode on us and kind of ease back to the south, maybe even to the south-southeast. Then as we head through Saturday and into Sunday, it's going to start marching back off to the west, and then as you know, Sunday and into Monday, continue back off to the west. The question is still, is it even a thing at that point? Right now, the official forecast keeps it as a tropical storm, not a strong tropical storm, but a tropical storm nonetheless, as we head through Sunday and into Monday as it starts marching back off to the west. Currently moving to the north at 15, but this thing is getting stretched out pretty good because it's got a little area of low pressure in the mid-levels that's off to its west, and then you've got Jerry, which is off to its northeast, and there's a little bit of stretching that's happening in here because of the forces that are happening on Karen itself, getting pulled one direction by one low and getting pulled another direction by another low. All the while, you've got high pressure off to the northwest and then back off to the east-southeast. Which is also kind of channeling it off to the north. So there's a lot going on with Karen, and this is why the uncertainty is so high with this, is because there are a lot of moving pieces, and although we are starting to get a better idea of what the pieces even are, because up until this point we've been struggling to even know, well, which piece is even going to do anything at all, we're starting to get a better idea about what the pieces are going to be. Now it's about where are those pieces going to be and what are they going to be doing that we've got to figure out over the next couple of days. Of course, Hurricane Lorenzo out here, wind at 85 miles an hour, gusting to 105, moving off to the west-northwest at 17. This is going to make a run at a Category 3 and perhaps even a Category 4. If it does make it to major hurricane status, I want to say that this is going to be the strongest hurricane on record this far to the east this late in the season. I know that's a lot of qualifiers, but we don't often see major hurricanes this far off to the east. Usually it takes them kind of a while, especially as we get into September and October, for them to, kind of churn themselves up and turn into something, just because given the time of the year that it is, not as much happens out here in late September and early October as it does a little bit closer to the United States. And then what's left of this riffraff, about a 0% chance of development as we head through the next couple of days, according to the National Hurricane Center. This is a little too close to the Yucatan right now, and it's just going to run into Mexico before it can do much of anything. All right, back to Karen. We're feeling pretty good about where Karen's going to be come Friday at about lunch. The idea is this is going to lift off to the north-northeast, then kind of ease off to the east a little bit as it starts to get influenced by a ridge of high pressure. Beyond this point, beyond 48 hours from now, give or take, yeah, it could be just off to the south and east of Bermuda. It could be right back where it is right now, give or take, or even further off to the south than that, just north of Puerto Rico. There's also a chance within some of these models. Watch what happens with it. Here we are on Sunday morning. Watch what happens as we head through Monday and into Tuesday and Wednesday. Some of these actually curl it back around and off to the north-northeast again. It may just float around out here for a while. We'll have to kind of wait and see. Most of the models that we kind of depend on to put together an accurate forecast that actually look at the actual data, and they aren't just statistical, they're actually dynamical, bring it off to the west. How far to the west? Well, by the middle of next week, we're still off to the east of the Bahamas. So again, we've got plenty of time. I know a lot of folks are very concerned about the K-storm out here, Karen, for maybe good reason, maybe not as good a reason. I can't tell you what your reasoning is, if it's good or bad, but I will say that if you are concerned, do know that there's a week before this thing moves all of a couple of 100 miles from where it is right now. So you got plenty of time. On top of it, it's only pegged to be a tropical storm at this point, too. All right, let's go to some of the deterministic modeling, which isn't always the best, but it does give us an idea about the way things are going to look. There's Karen, there's what's left to Jerry, there's that upper level low, there's Lorenzo back over here, and there's a whole mess of dry air with kind of a little weak sauce little front that's in here as high pressure starts to build in as we head through Saturday. Area of low pressure gets eaten up by dry air. There's Karen, Lorenzo over here. Notice Saturday and into Sunday and Monday, Karen still just north of Puerto Rico, Lorenzo not really bothering anybody. But then we've got to start watching what happens with Karen into Tuesday and Wednesday. There's a chance that it kind of falls apart and starts to lift back off to the north. It looks like right now that there's going to be a ridge of high pressure over the southeast, and then this bulging ridge of high pressure out here toward Bermuda. But it looks like right now there may end up being kind of a weakness between the two that will allow Karen to go north and never bother anybody overland. Again, that's just a chance. That's not the forecast. But as of now, that's one thing we're keeping tabs on. On top of it, we've got to start paying attention to the Central American gyre now that we're getting into October, because over the last couple of years, that's been something that we've had to watch here along the Gulf Coast in October, is that Central American gyre, for spinning up little guys for us to kind of pay close attention to as we head through, you know, here we are on October 5th. You guys may remember Michael, Nate, just in the last couple of years came off of that Central American gyre. Now, storms that come off of that tend to be lopsided and pretty weak. I think Alberto came off of a Central American gyre as well. Again, lopsided and weak. However, asterisk, there's an exception to every rule. Michael was the exception to that rule. Michael was a very powerful hurricane. So again, when you're looking out here into the CAGs, the CAG, Central American gyre, generally lopsided. It is something we're going to have to pay close attention to. GFS says, bye-bye, Karen, never bothers anybody. Okay, well, what does the Europeans say? Another deterministic model. Again, these don't paint, obviously, the best picture in the world, but they do paint us a picture for us to watch. High pressure and control in the Gulf of Mexico. Another ridge of high pressure just off of the East Coast. That's where all the dry air is. We've got upper level low here, Karen here, what's left of Jerry there, Lorenzo back over here. We'll set things into motion through Friday and Saturday. Dry air continues to reign supreme over the Gulf of Mexico. There's your upper level low. Now into the Bahamas. Karen's back over here. Lorenzo staying out to sea, not bothering a person except for the fish and the boats. Sunday and into Monday, here comes that upper level low back across and into the strait between the Yucatan and Cuba. This is on Wednesday, and we may actually start to see something spin up off of this. Now, the good news here is this is actually headed off to the west and toward the Yucatan. there's Karen, not really bothering anybody, staying out to sea, and it kind of gets eaten up out here. And it actually looks like within the European model, it's trying to figure out, it can't quite decide what it wants to happen, easy for me to say, with Karen as we head through Saturday, October 5th. Back in behind me, what you didn't see because I was standing in the way, was that little area of mid-level low pressure kind of lifts off to kind of the north-northwest and toward Louisiana, Texas, and Mexico. And again, it's a little too early to tell where it's going to go and what it's going to do, but it is something I think that we should watch. You may recall just a couple of days ago, a couple weeks ago, Imelda actually formed off of one of these mid-level areas of low pressure that was drifting across the Gulf of Mexico. It intersected with some low-level activity that was actually, I think, shot off of a land breeze from Florida. That's how we ended up with Imelda. So these mid-level and upper-level areas of low pressure can't just be poo-pooed and frowned on. Oh, yeah, we don't have to worry about that. It does need to be monitored, but it doesn't necessarily mean much of anything because a lot of the models do struggle with figuring out where those are going to go and what they're going to do and whatever intensity they're going to have, because you're waiting on a catalyst almost. You've got the little mid-level area of low pressure, but you need the catalyst, you need that lower level area of low pressure to get things going. If you don't ever get that, you don't ever get anything. So we're going to have to play the kind of waiting game with that one. Again, Karen kind of gets eaten up. European says maybe another wave coming off the coast of Africa out here to keep tabs on. And it also has the Central American gyre maybe spinning up something as we head through the beginning of October as well. A lot going on in the tropics. This is normal for this time of the year. Keep that in mind. Late September, early October is generally pretty active. We usually have a fair amount of activity to talk about in the tropics. For now, though, just kind of keep tabs on what's happening out there. There's nothing imminent to the United States or anywhere, really. Karen's going to float around out in the middle of the Atlantic for a little while. We're probably not going to see anything into the Gulf of Mexico for about the next 5 days at least, maybe even longer. And then the stuff coming off the coast of Africa should slow down as we head through the next couple of days, which would be good news because then it would slow down the overall activity across the open Atlantic and thus the activity just kind of in general. Again, a lot going on. That's a look at your tropical update for September 25th of 2019. Again, brought to you by the folks over at Pine Belt Gutters.